Hello, everyone. I'll let you guys come in. I'm Thibaut from Rental Scale-Up and PriceLabs. And today we'll be talking about 2025 trends that will impact your revenue strategy. Um, so it's a pretty good topic. I got with me three experts. I just let you stream in. Already 40 of you are here in the room. Fantastic. Just like 30 seconds more and I get started straight away because you guys were on time. No reason not to start. Um, so as usual, what to expect, this is being recorded. So do stay until the end, but if you can't, it's okay. You're going to get an email with the a recording of this. As usual, you are more than welcome to ask us questions. There's a Q&A little box, the little widget Q&A here on Zoom you can use. Um, but to make sure to get started, you also have the chat box. You can leave a comment. And just so I know, there's 60 of you already. Just so I have a feel like maybe where you guys located, so we have an idea of where you guys located. So just go to the chat box if you can, say hello and tell us where you're based. Just curious out of this, why we welcome you, and I get started. Feel free to chat in the chat box, tell us where you are or ask any question. And yep. Branson, Michigan, Miami Beach, Chicago, Keystone. Wow, the US is really there. Oh, Scotland. There we go. Scotland as well. Virgin Islands. Hey, it's incredible.
Amsterdam.
Let's take Chicago, Italy, Florida again. Florida, always a big market. And sending good vibes to you guys. London, Colorado, Phoenix.
No, I'm in Phoenix as well.
There we go. Look at that. All right. So without further ado, it's time to get started. There's 80 of you. Let's do that. All right. Up, up. All right. You should be seeing one slide normally. If you don't, let me know. All right. As I said, right, we are going to get a live discussion today, right? Not 50 slides, just a couple. And we go live to a live discussion, 2025 trends that will shape your revenue strategy. I'm Thibaut, I'm your host today, and also I'll be talking a bit as I am the founder of Rental Scale-Up. It's a short-term rental news website. We have a free newsletter going out every week. We tell you about OTA trends, what the big OTAs are up to. We share market data. We talk about new technology. Go there. So rentalscape.com/newsletter, free newsletter every week. And I also happen to be the head of product marketing at PriceLabs. RentalScape belongs to PriceLabs as well. So again, super happy to be here. And we have three. So yeah, a quick word about PriceLabs as well. So we have PriceLabs, it's a revenue management company. I'm pretty sure Becca will introduce it better than me. Revenue management platform and market data company. I have to plug this. I was requested to, and I will do this. We have a podcast called RevLabs at PriceLabs. So weekly podcast. We talk about the life of, we talk about US data, what's happening for revenue management. We talk about we interview revenue managers as well. So it's a pretty cool podcast if you're into revenue management. Just go there. I did my plug. All right, we have three great panelists, but instead of me talking about them, let's have them talk about themselves. We have Ben, Richard, and Becca. So maybe in this order, let's have each of you introduce himself and herself. Go ahead, Ben.
Hey, thank you to all. Yeah, Ben Coleman here with the founder CEO of Revenue Research. We are a revenue management consulting firm. Anything from my day to day looks like organizing big data for my team to power our team internally. What that looks like for our clients are normally biweekly meetings with organization of data. Same thing, going over trends, looking at a lot of historic data, really looking right now, seeing ways to retain homeowners for 2025 and to finish out those budgets. And just want to say thank you so much, guys, for having me. Been a big fan of yours. Always a pleasure to spend some time with Becca and get to know Richard. It's been a pleasure.
Fantastic. Richard, you next.
Yeah, thanks, Tebow. Thanks, Ben. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Tebow as well and the rental scale up. Yeah, I run a very small boutique consultancy company called Yes Consulting. I've been in the industry for about 25 years. I've built and founded and exited two management companies and a rental technology company, and I spend most of my time working with management companies on preparation for growth and exit at the moment.
Thank you, Richard. Big fan of yours too. Becca, how about you?
Hey y'all, my name is Becca, based out of Charleston, South Carolina, where I used to be a general manager of a vacation rental company here on our sort of barrier islands. I've been with PriceLabs for about 3.5 years now. I lead our solutions team, so we do everything from helping people learn about our tools to actually getting you onboarded and then ensuring your long-term success. So my team works with people from all over the US, all over the world, understanding sort of their needs and concerns when it comes to either their rates or their data or just generally their revenue management strategy. So it's been really exciting and really, really happy to be here with y'all.
So happy to have you, Becca, again. If you ever attended a webinar with Becca, you know how she's insightful and great to listen to and to work with. Maybe you don't know that, I can tell you. Can vouch for that. All right. So topics today. Now you know that the speakers know what they're talking about. So what are they going to be discussing? Quick things. So one is going to be very practical in a way. We're talking about before we go into big trends, what's happening in the world. Let's talk about your market. How can we help you? How we want to help you basically see how you can get data, right? Understand what's happening in your market next year. We'll start with this. Number two, we're going to talk about key booking trends that we've seen, from shorter booking windows to what the OTS say is happening to, making sure you actually know about your own local events. Number three, we'll be talking about inventory. We read a lot about topics of oversupply, and same time we hear people saying, well, in these times of very strict regulations, in this time of natural disasters, should we actually go and diversify our property types or locations? Interesting topic to think about. And number four, we'll be talking at something big, maybe in 2025, which is Airbnb co-hosting network. I'll give you a quick tour of this, and then we'll discuss together whether it's an opportunity for you to get more leads, or actually it's going to create pressure on your companies and on your margins. So I think it's a pretty good topic, and these are things that will be affecting you next year. And I think I have one more slide before I go. I have to plug this one as well. Here we're talking about the key trends. If you're a PriceLab customer, you know that in 2 weeks from now we have a follow-up webinar to this one, which will be more about now you know about the big trends. How do you set up your PriceLabs to adapt for it? So if you're a PriceLab customer, really, really join that one. All right. So I talked about this first topic, which was like, first, how do I even know the trends in my market before hearing about the overall big trends in industry? So who wants to get started? Either Ben, Richard, or Becca. Where do I even find data to know what's happening in my market? Where should I look into?
I always like to look at your own data first before we get necessarily chasing after the market or looking at market data. We always like to, especially right now coming into the new year. If you're stateside, you're in a Gatlinburg, you're in a Destin, Florida, you're in one of those more legacy vacation rental markets. You're starting to come up. You're starting to get really close to booking season. So what we would recommend before we start looking at the market is how are we pacing year over year? Where are the weaknesses in our portfolio in consideration to pace? And then look at market data. If the market's weaknesses are matching yours. And then on the flip side, where are you pacing ahead from a revenue standpoint? Where are you pacing maybe a little too much, maybe a little too high from an ADR perspective, and begin to compare market trends this early that way is what I would recommend doing right now.
If people are not sure what pacing is, sorry for the basic question for myself, I'm being naive, but what do you mean by, how do I know whether I'm pacing or not? What do I look at? What kind of data
100%.
exactly? Yeah.
100%. When I say the word pacing, we could be looking at occupancy, we could be looking at revenue, or we could be looking at ADR, any of those KPIs. And it's a term that we use. We call it same day last year. That would be, so what is today, October 14th? And let's say that October 14th of 2023, I had $1,000. I had $1,000 of revenue, and on November 14th of 2024, I have $1,100. I would be pacing 10% above where I paced last year. And we like to look at it that way because your truest source of data is going to be your own. You're manipulating that data yourselves, that your expectations are in mind, your goals, what you want to accomplish that year are really being manipulated at that level. So we like to start there and then see if the market is seeing the same kind of trends that we are.
Thanks for the clarification. Becca, how about you? When you heard about pacing same time last year, I'm pretty sure these terms are familiar with you. So
Oh, yeah.
what do you recommend? Where do I look? Do I look in PriceLabs, in my RMS, in my PMS? Where do I look to know what's happening next year?
There's so much data out there these days. It's sometimes hard to know where to look. Shameless plug here. PriceLabs did just release. It's called the Report Builder. It's this really cool tool, and our team has developed it over the past year with the intention of you not having to go to like 6 different places to find your data. It's pulling all the data in from your PMS. It has market data that's matched to each of your listings. So it's a really easy place to one, access a couple of just canned reports, things like your leaderboard, things like an opportunities report, just very easy to access data, but then also to build your own reports. So if you have questions and you're kind of unsure of where you need to go to answer them, and you might actually need to go to a couple of different sources traditionally to export and then build your own reports, it just makes it very easy kind of in one place in an Excel-like format to do that.
If you had to pick a report here in this tool and report builder, what would be one of the reports that because there are canned reports, existing reports in this tool that could be useful for 2025? What's your favorite one?
Well, I saw that there are a decent number of sort of larger operators on this call. We have this really great report. I think it's called the segment pacing report, where just at a glance, high level, you can see each of like the cities that you're operating in and by bedroom count, how each of those segments are pacing against each other. And that's just sort of a high level how we would segment things, but what's nice about it is you can edit it. You can basically clone the report and edit it so that any of the ways that you segment your properties, whether if you're a PriceLabs user using groups or using tags, makes it really easy. But also, I should mention, even if you're not a PriceLabs user, the report builder is currently free to access and use. All you have to do is connect your listing. So, we actually have access to your data, but you don't need to be subscribed to any of our other tools in order to access it, which is really cool.
Yeah, I'll just add something I think in here because I'm not going to counter two experts on revenue management, dynamic pricing, and tools. I think there's possibly a macro level that everybody should be looking at as well. So, the managers I work with, they have revenue managers. They use third-party tools. Some of them use PriceLabs integrated to the PMS. And we all know for 2025, data is going to become more and more and more important. But from a macro level, the reason is that there's so many changes and headwinds in the industry. And people are now, or managers are now thinking, how should I split up my inventory? Should I be going for very early bookings and then in the low season start changing the inventory, maybe to residential, maybe for student bookings, maybe for something that looks completely different? So not everybody always wants to get 365, 24/7 bookings as well. Owners tend to be a little circumspect. So I just think people and managers, owners are all beginning to look a little more creatively about what they're doing in the future. And they're having to take things like TVO's newsletter every week to understand where the legislation is coming, where the other headwinds are coming, where the challenges might be, and to adapt to that in advance of what they would have done normally in years gone by.
Okay, thanks a lot. So I think again, we really wanted, talking about 2025 trends, we really wanted again to start about talking about your own data, your own market, where you can see that, right? Of course, it's a mix of maybe your revenue management software, your PMS as well. Could be other sources, right? That exist in the market. In the end, as well as we know, it's like the best thing is the best tools are the tools you actually use as well, right? It's very important. It's not maybe not having as many as possible, as many as you have. So
For sure.
let's
And I
go.
mean, and just to say real quick too, I mean, we have data tools that we use. We're pulling some automations in, but I mean, there's still nothing that can replace just pulling a booking summary report out of your PMS. Just going straight in there. If you're an Airbnb host, that transaction report, because if you really think about our data, it can be so overwhelming, but it actually is quite simple in the fact that you're really just looking for the creation date of the reservation, the check-in, the check-out, and the rent. And from there, you can really dive into anything just using simple Excel formulas just to calculate your own. I also always recommend, you can always reach out into Upwork, reach out somewhere to a third party just to have somebody build you some models to see where to look at your data differently. We're always available. PriceLabs has Report Builder, but there's nothing you can always just download a booking summary report and take a look at that every week.
Well, I'll kind of semi disagree with you, Ben, because you're absolutely right. But actually, more and more people are getting more and more challenged by the amount of data, and they are actually needing help. They want a simple to a very complex equation,
Just go straight simple to the source.
I like, Richard, what you said about creatively about your data and sort of, looking at the macro, but also, obviously you want to look at what's going on locally as well. I think in today's day and age, sometimes it's easy to be a little bit overwhelmed by all the different data sources that you can look at. So having somebody that's on your team that can think creatively and can figure out what the right questions to ask is really what's going to set you apart. Because if everybody has the same access to data, it's more about what are you doing with it.
Right. Yeah.
And I would challenge the property managers that have somebody on their team like that if you're lucky enough to have somebody on your team that can truly creatively think about data, the biggest thing that we hear, Becca, and I'm sure you hear it all the time, is they never get time to do it.
Yes.
They never get time to do it. So if you're lucky enough to have somebody creative like that, I would really challenge the property managers to block them off 30, 45 minutes, at least 30, 45 minutes twice a week so that they can creatively look at your data for you.
Right. That's a great discussion. I love that. We're going to part two. But before we do that, if you're attending, of course, feel free to ask questions. Do use the Q&A feature we have, because I see some of you asking your questions in the comments. It's better if you do that in Q&A so that, for example, we actually somebody in the team ready to reply to any questions we have, but as well, we'll be able to take these questions maybe more towards the end. But so do use the Q&A thing, and we really welcome your questions. So part two is about talking about the trends, and it will be three types of trends I will talk about. I will show at some point trends from the OTAs and how you guys think it's relevant or not. We'll talk also about local trends. How do I know what's happening in my market? But the first one, overall, we hear that booking windows are shorter. That's classic. I think that's something we hear a lot of markets. For each of you, one, is it something you've heard? And number two, then what to do in 2025 to address that? Who wants to get started?
Well, I mean, I can tell you the companies I work with, then booking windows are shorter and stay times are shorter as well. So one thing that's kind of surprised me personally over the years, because I've been doing this for 20 years in two management companies, that we always wanted to have 6 or 7 day and leisure stays, So, but now the narrative seems to be we actually want people to stay a shorter period of time as a manager as well, because we can leverage more margin of multiple services by doing that as well. So it's not just, I think, guests coming and staying. I want to stay in 2 or 3 places. I want to have more holidays a year. I think there's an underlying pressure coming through from supply as well to say, we want you to stay 3 days because we can actually upsell all that sort of stuff as well. So the answer is yes, it is happening, Thibaut, but I don't think it's simply down to the fact that guests are going on OTAs and replicating what happens in hotels.
Yeah, and Airbnb during the financial call that Airbnb had, they did say that short booking windows are shorter, but in the end, they do get the bookings. I don't know, Ben, is it something you see shorter booking windows, but the bookings do happen, or are things down?
Um,
What do you see?
I, I've got a little bit different of a philosophy and methodology when it comes to this. I've been saying this for years at Rev Research, our goal is 365 days of realistic bookable rates. And what I mean by that is I want us to be well priced further out. Because if you think about booking windows shortening, if you think about supply increasing and demand being stagnant, that does not equal compression. That does not equal prices raising as we get deeper into that booking window. We actually have been seeing our booking windows for our clients that we get currently. What I mean by that is if we have somebody that comes to us today, the next 6 months or so, we are seeing an increase of a booking window. And that I want to say that is more of us pricing them better in the midterm and further out. We're not holding rates really, really, really high, hoping for a couple unicorn bookings. Now, with clients that we've been working with for years, we are doing our best to minimize that booking window, but we are seeing the last minute fill up. We are seeing that come. I want us and our clients to have what I call more sustainable bookings, meaning I want us filling up before we come into that month. But no, definitely are seeing booking windows shrink. They don't have to shrink as much as we're seeing them, and we can definitely combat that with better pricing further out.
So Ben, you would advise to, because of oversupply, you'd be advising to actually get bookings in much faster.
Richard, I do. I think that I think that it's kind of tough. I wish I could draw a bell curve and get a whiteboard out and pinpoint some things. But, when you really think about selling at that, not selling it necessarily at the peak until we come to the window, we're really getting a lot of yield in between, 30, 45 days before the window and trying to fill the calendars up. It also gives the operational side of the business a little bit more of a breather too. You start running some of those day-long booking windows y'all have across the pond that I was talking to people at Scale at, and I'm just like, I would be just a nightmare. I mean, I like to run my life can get pretty stressful, but 12, 24, 36-hour booking windows would terrify
me. Yeah.
Becca, what's your view on this, on the shorter booking windows? And what to do?
Sorry. Yeah, I think everything that y'all have said thus far makes sense. I would say that I think you really want to pay attention to your specific market. Um, Even for example, so Charleston is a very seasonal market. The islands that I was working at have 90+% occupancy in the summer months. Even if your booking window is shortening, there's still so many bookings that are coming in. For those months, I wouldn't say that you really need to adopt your strategy too much because as long as you're offering a good product, more than likely it's going to get booked. Um, but when it comes to your off season and your shoulder seasons, I think a lot of people almost over focus on their high season and really think about their strategies there. But really, with the increased supply and everything else, you're really going to see more of an impact on those shoulders and off seasons that at the end of the day actually can sort of make or break your year. So if you're too focused on your high season or you're using the same strategy for your high season as your shoulder or low season, you're potentially going to be one, leaving money on the table during your high season, and then two, not filling up during your low and shoulder.
All right. So for this trend, second part of it is talking about OTA trends. So what do I mean by OTA trends here? It's basically Vrbo, Airbnb, and Booking.com. Each year they do some kind of exercise, which is half looking at data, half PR, really, to get journalists to write about them. But they do share what they see next year in big trends for consumers, right? For travelers. And I do think it's interesting to look at a few of them and have the panelists here tell us what they think, whether it's like pure PR. I was about to say use another term, but pure PR, let's say, those two letters. or is it actually there? Why am I showing this? Even if sometimes I'm like, what is that? Because you may know, well, you may not know that, but I worked for 5 years at Booking.com at the headquarters. And I can tell you usually when an OTA is talking about a trend, it's because behind on their mind, they have like, oh, we just have a new feature catering that happening to cater that trend. And I'm like, oh, they're talking about that trend. May mean I need to go back to my OTA or to my settings to my PMS to there's maybe new things to tick and say, yes, I do have these features. So you get a new label, a new thing, new visibility for a new segment, for example. So that's why I'm sharing this. But again, I want to really show that quickly. I think I got 4 trends, have the feel for my panelists here, and also see whether they see this in the market, whether it's important and or just again PR. Let's quickly go through it. Again, it's like 4 slides. I promise no death by slide today. All right. First one I've noticed. So a lot of them talk about multi-generational and group travel. So nothing really new for vacation rentals on one hand, right? It's like, but what's interesting is that what we really mean here is that they're talking about the boomers here. Uh, for so many articles talking about TikTok and Gen Z and millennials, boomers are a big part of the market. They make a lot of decisions when it comes to short-term vacation rentals, for example. And what's happening is that until now, it was really Vrbo's thing, right? The big houses for big groups coming in. Booking.com, Airbnb are going after that. Airbnb has rolled out a lot of features for group, group can chat together on Airbnb and lots of things. So they're going after that market as well. So we may want to think about this, but distribution. That's why the others, not just Vrbo, is talking about this year. Also, another fact was interesting from Booking.com that 23% of boomers are planning thrill-seeking vacations. I think staying with your family is probably thrill-seeking in a way. But so it may mean again, even in your marketing, it's not just about I'm going to make the home accessible for older people. It also means like, yes, we have to think that boomers who do have a lot of money making decisions for booking, they also probably want just not the traditional view of who they are, like as older person, right? They are sort of active. That can change as well in marketing. So quickly around the table, what do you guys think of that? Is that as usual, or you think like, yes, there's something different in the way the markets are this year, to next year about this?
Well, I'm a boomer, and therefore it's old hat to me. In this one statement, it's old hat.
Yeah, gotcha. Anything you've noticed? Any kind of difference here? Anyone?
I think I tend to agree with Richard. I think it's just the same. I like what he said. Did he say the same old hat? I really like that saying a lot. And so I'm going to say the same thing.
Right.
Well, here, I'm not sure what old hat means.
I hope it means what I think it means. So
just means we've seen it a lot before, Becca.
Sorry, guys. I don't know. For me, I think this is one of the less PR trends. At least here in the US, baby boomers have over 50% of the wealth. A lot of them are having, grandkids at some point and want to travel. So this is a big driver for a lot of the travel that's happening in the US. Now, does this mean that you need to like specifically market to them? Maybe. At least for us, like when I was a property manager, I think a lot of the sort of older generation tended to be some of our best customers, actually repeating guests that wanted to have like a relationship with our company versus the bachelorette party that would book on Airbnb and then destroy our houses. So yeah, I think, if you do have homes that, are single story or have elevators, definitely highlight that because that's actually a really big feather in your cap, I'd say.
And adding to this, indeed, there's a part of this which is self-fulfilling. For example, Airbnb having more features for groups because they want bigger bookings, longer bookings, kind of things, does mean that they will be able to sell this because they will start buying traffic for groups way more than they did in the past. So it may mean if you have big houses, which big houses did really, really well on Vrbo, maybe Airbnb could or has become interesting as well. That's a division bit I had. So another one. All right, there we go. have to go forward. All right. Yeah, just I didn't know what to show as illustration. So you can anyway. So wellness and mental health focused travel. I go into a second slide about this, but anyway, what's interesting to me that they say like people like 60% of travelers are seeking long-term health benefits from their vacation. Just like resting is a good one, sleeping, but like people are looking for more, maybe like be able to walk better, have better air. If you, we've seen a trend, even for example, in Southern Europe, people booking vacation in Northern Europe because it's too hot in the summer nowadays. So people are looking for like long-term health benefits. What it means to me for TA, it means like, okay, probably if people are seeking this, making sure that in your TAs or PMS, you do tick the boxes to say, things around, your location has access to some sports facilities, for example, natural parks. That could make sense. Another one is that if we know the whole big detox joy of missing out is big. Like people are just like happy just not to be connected, even post elections. Um, People are happy to be disconnected. So I don't know how you can really cater to that, but apparently it's a trend. So again, on this one, PR, BS, may say so, or there's something people should care about for 2025.
Yeah, I'll dive in again first. So, yeah, I mean, I think this is a trend and it's a global trend. It's very, there's a lot of press about it and there's a lot of concern about it, adding sustainability, ecology, health, well-being, mental health. It's definitely true. So I don't think it's just PR, but it is leveraging a lot of the current press.
I agree, Richard. I think that it's definitely they're definitely hopping on the bandwagon of some buzzwords for sure. But I agree, Richard. I 100% agree that it's a trend, and maybe not just a trend. It's here to stay for a while. One thing that I think is tough is as a property manager is trying to decide how to be nimble enough, or can you be kind of too nimble or too agile? This is one that I would focus on mainly because you're looking at you could really drive some bookings to some of your smaller inventory. Some of your smaller inventory, if it's just not even putting a desk in, moving a desk over by a window and taking a different picture that it looks like a good place to think. A good place, creating some good lighting in there that would encourage somebody to go, hey, you know what? I want to go. I wasn't really planning on going to Gatlinburg, but you know what? 2 weeks there sounds actually really nice in October and November. Go hiking, and I want to go somewhere and work. We're definitely seeing more and more of that. I personally travel a decent amount doing that, and any kind of cool little workspace, anything kind of, I guess for better of a word, eccentric, anything kind of like that lets me know that it's a good place to work definitely grabs my attention. Could also be a great way to fill up some last minute inventory too.
I mean, there's some stats here as well, Thibaut. If you look at the Spanish stats for 2023, domestic tourism headed north, and they headed north because it was too hot south and it was too over touristy.
Yeah.
So, the stats are actually showing part of this is true.
And before Bika shares hers, I was just also, as I said, just deep dive on this one as well. It's something we prepared this call and we talk about this sensory friendly accommodation. Obviously, I'm not a native speaker, but I guess even for some of you guys, like what are we talking about, right? So it is a thing apparently sorry, that's not what I meant to say. It obviously people have issues, from HDHD, even long COVID, like my sister-in-law, and they're looking for different places. What I didn't know it was a thing to market to this, and kind of makes sense. And again, it might be very easy, updated your descriptions or amenities, just to say maybe there's some quieter zone or quiet areas. Something we don't think about, but some people looking for like places where it's super quiet, for example, maybe important, for people. So again, on this one, maybe Becca, of the whole wellness topic, what do you think of this? It's something you've heard, you have clients where you do this, or what's your view?
Yeah. I'd say that this is all just like a very interesting lens to like take a step back and view your listings through. I think it's going to cause you to lose bookings for you to offer extra amenities or to be a little bit more thoughtful in where you put that desk or how you take photos or how you show up on your listing. So whether it's, and things, even though I feel like neurodivergent and ADHD, I personally have ADHD. I feel like that's sort of a buzzword right now, and that's sort of why Airbnb is saying this. But again, I think there's a huge opportunity to still learn from that, right? Just because you could offer not noisemakers, like gray noisemakers or blackout curtains, things like that, that would actually be useful to people who are traveling with kids, to people who might not, identify as neurodivergent.
Love it.
And really you're, elevating your entire experience by just being a little bit more thoughtful.
Exactly. And last one I will take. So again, we can laugh about this one, but it's also very interesting. The whole set jetting. So basically, this the idea like people see MLS in Paris, they go to Paris. They see Games of Thrones, they go to Dubrovnik. That's Dubrovnik here, or they go to Iceland, or they see any kind of show and they travel. It always kind of existed, but apparently with Netflix and the rest, this has accelerated. Um, so here the idea is like if you do have properties in those locations, uh, that could be a good resource for content for SEO on your social media, or even sometimes in your listing descriptions. That could be a good idea for people who may be looking for this. Now we are 2 doors away from that house that was featured in, how to. Anyway, so what do you guys think of this one? Is it something you've heard or seen? PR, quick one. Feel free.
Definitely happens, Steve-O, without doubt. You can use it for getting more traffic and for getting more bookings. Unfortunately, if it's overdone, you end up with complaints and legislation against over tourism. But yeah, it's a fact.
It definitely is, and I think anything that you can do anywhere to leverage into the community, you can leverage. I mean, I've met people that are renting out firehouses and water towers. Anything that you can drive eyeballs to your listings that relate around a community or a geographic area, I think is a home run.
Yeah, I think this really just speaks to people wanting their vacation to be an experience and not just have just a vacation rental. So whether that's, obviously you can't really control the location of your company. You can't say, oh, Game of Thrones was filmed here if it wasn't. Um, but one of my colleagues, Kyle, he recently took his daughter to Nashville and they stayed in this really sweet Taylor Swift decked out suite. So anything that you can do to kind of be unique or
There we go.
have that experience can
And,
really set you apart.
and it's great to hear, right? And again, it's just like these trends. Whatever we think as professional of these trends, old hat, or it's been around, or it's just like blah. It's like it does say something about either the OTA's intention of like, okay, that's where they're going. Maybe I want to check something, or it says as well as like, you may be surprised to know I'm French. I may be surprised, shocking news for a lot of people. So I may have this, dim view of Emily in Paris and how it shows the city. But whatever I think, I can't deny that a lot of people are choosing to go to Paris from around the world, right? Not just from the US, to go to Paris just to go where they're going. So again, it's also interesting to think as well, like we have to keep up with this and it could be a source of content. All right. So next topic I want you to oh yeah, before I do this, and we talk about events, look about local events. Maybe each of you, what is the best way, one best way you would pick, just one, to make sure I'm not forgetting about local events in 2025 in my area? What have you seen people do, property managers do to make sure, sometimes I will give you one, but I had a very good tip from a property manager telling me, I talk to my team and my cleaners because they know events. Again, because we're not in all the circles, right? So they know events I don't know about, or they talk to people, to guests, and I'm like, ooh, this one could be happening again next year, or they happen to be in those circles, they care about triathlons or concerts, and I'm like, well, that's a good one. So if you give one tip to a property manager here, what could be a good source to know what events next year once get started? Just one.
Just talk. Yeah, go ahead, Richard.
I was going to say, just work with your local, your destination marketing organizations. They're the ones who actually have the lists, and they're the ones that are constantly being fed in by local organizations. I mean, internationally, it's very hard to get that type of information in consolidated spaces. So, and as we're in a hyper-local industry, it seems the best way of doing it.
Yeah, I would agree. Working with your local DMO seems to be the best. Seems to be the best. One little piece of revenue management advice I would give for local events is really being hyper focused on when you want to change that length of stay.
Yeah, I agree. DMOs are a great resource, and I really think that they're underutilized by the vacation rental industry. From the data side, again, shameless PriceLabs plug here. There's a couple of features in our tools that allow you to identify one, dates that are booking up more quickly than others, and then two, just identify in a quick list events that we've picked up in your market. So, just very easy to quickly kind of oversee the data and then hopefully make changes to your portfolio if you need to. Like Ben said, I think length of stay, paying attention to your minimum stay restrictions during those key
Oh
times
yeah.
really make or break whether it's a win or a not so much of a win for you.
DMO, Destination Marketing Organization. Just I had the question, so I wanted to make sure. Yes, like local tourist boards, tourism offices, depending around the world how we call it. That's again, or your friendly short-term rental association sometimes has a list. Sometimes it can happen as well. Um, uh, all right. So, third topic of day supply. We've heard a lot in 2024 that there's oversupply everywhere. There's over tourism and oversupply everywhere. Um, 2025, how to think about it. I want to think of this like, and give you two elements here. We had recently with Rental Scale-Up a discussion with Brooke Falls from Ventry, and he was explaining that if you're a property manager, if you want to grow your revenue, uh, it's better to focus on still add more supply, but you'll grow faster than just trying to get more bookings from the same properties. So adding supply would make sense. And second discussion again with him, with very very good discussion last time. We're talking about also the impact of regulations and natural disasters, right? No, Florida, a lot of you guys this was asking for in Florida. I used to live in the Caribbean, so I can imagine what a hurricane is like. Maui. So some property managers got their businesses wiped out just like in just a few days, right? So regulations, right? Boom, your whole market, the whole slice of the market can be banned, right? How to think about this between like there's oversupply and yet I need to add more supply to grow, and at the same time, should I think about diversifying to address some risks? A lot of questions on the supply probably on the mind of our audience. Who wants to get started? Feel free.
Go ahead, Rebecca. Go ahead, Becky.
I can dive in because I did a presentation last week at a show on supply in the UK. And I think we had something like 375,000 properties. I'm pretty sure PriceLabs has got prices on all of them. But we're seeing so many headwinds now. We've got high interest rates. We've got finished holiday letting challenges coming where they're going to remove all the tax benefits. We've got registration, hopefully not licensing coming, and already there's a pressure wave which shows that there is going to be a reduction in inventory. So, this is the natural course of things as industries grow anyway. So we're going to be legislated, restricted, managed, have to become more professional. What's really interesting about it is it happened in Scotland. Scotland lost inventory, but the ADRs went up and the occupancy has gone up for the ones that remained. Okay. And that question you just had, Thibaut, about what do? Do you get on more inventory? You can't just say get more inventory. You have to say get the right inventory.
100%.
And my final comment on this is I am asked so often, should I start another business in another destination? 99% of the time, it's ridiculously hard to do that because you're hyper locally, you've grown from nothing and you know everything about the place and you get references and referrals and you're local. So it's quite unusual to find companies that can do two destinations as well as the one they started in.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's a great thought to diversify your portfolio. If you can do it successfully, then that's amazing. But you have to be really thoughtful and intentional in how you go about the process. Because if you just say, "Oh, I'm doing really well in Florida, let me open up a shop in Colorado and, copy and paste my strategies," you might end up not failing, but losing out in both businesses because your attention is split and you're not being as intentional as you should. Um,
And how about then just say um, regulations are short term, I go more midterm, or let's say I'm going to change the type of properties. What could be if I don't go after location diversification, can I go after property type? What do you think?
It's
Yeah,
where
I think that regulation there kind of dictates that, like you said, and that's where if you're looking at growth, where regulation can help, where regulation can help guide that growth. I personally would much rather operate and start working on a competition, working on competing in a regulated market already because you know what you're going to get. The worst thing to do would be to spend all this time, money, and energy to break into a new market that then in 2 to 3 years is going to become very heavy regulated, and you're a newer player in town.
Yeah, diversifying the approach to what type of rentals you're going to get. So midterm stays, long-term stays, out of season stays. There's a lot of conversation these days around, do I want distributed inventory or do I want hotel block apartments? Because that's actually that's a big trend at the moment as well.
Yeah,
So
that's why we've seen as well at PriceLabs, some of our customers coming and say they also do multi-unit in one building, and so in the end we are in a hospitality business because it's kind of hard to talk about property types. What's interesting was when call out. So Luis Ramos does say one day we started from zero, we can start from zero again at a different location if needed. So some positivity here coming. Um,
Yeah.
I want to switch now to the fourth subject. Is anybody anything else to ask? Sorry, on the supply side, what you guys wanted to say before I
I
switch?
would I would say just a couple things to the traditional property managers to not lose faith. I know it's been hard. We've seen a lot of churn from property manager to property manager. I really do think that we're getting to the point where we're going to see a lot of rental by owners start reaching out to professional property managers. And so I really do see that coming. A few just little things is, number one, I always kind of say this, the entryway to growth is you really need to define what does it cost to add that inventory? Number two, how many units can you add? How much inventory can you add without changing your current structure or adding employee count? And the other thing that I would really highly recommend doing is looking at your P&L. Look at your P&L by property type. Look at your P&L by bedroom count. Look at your P&L by maybe section of town that you're in. Find where you're the most profitable and push the gas pedal down that way. Push aggression toward where you're already profitable, because I've seen this time and time again where we go add 20, 25 units in a year. But hey, you know what? The 14 of them the first year weren't profitable yet. And so they're actually taking cash flow away from the actual heart of the business. That's what I'm just very passionate about that. That's just what I would say to the traditional property managers, especially in the States. Those rental by owners, they're coming, and it really is time really is coming that way to be the professional property manager again.
yeah,
That's a
T-Bone,
perfect. Oh,
sorry, T-Bone, just one comment is, the question is about, is adding more properties the best way of growing your business? I mean, I've been doing a fair amount of work on companies' P&Ls, and it's quite surprising how much extra margin you can add in by being slightly more creative about your revenue management, about upsells on it, about adding booking fees, about insurances, and all sorts of other elements that actually, for some accounts, makes as much money as their commissions. So
100%.
so the advice for 2025 is, as usual, turn to Richard for more on how to do this. But what you said, Ben, is a perfect segue to this. So, if things are difficult or some interest rate may go higher or lower, and never know these days what's going to happen. But somebody's here to help. It's Airbnb, not property managers, not us. I'm gonna quickly show you guys something. I hope up. So I think most of you, if not, it's okay. Again, spend 2 minutes on this. Have heard about the launch of Airbnb's co-host network. I hope you can see that screen I'm showing now. The co-host network, yes. Just tell me yes. You can see this. Yeah, perfect. All right. So basically, what's the idea is that in key markets in the world, US, Canada, France, Australia, for example, the UK, you can now, if you are a host on Airbnb, you can be put in contact with some co-hosts who will do, well, property management stuff for you, from helping you with your listing up to welcoming the guests or doing the cleaning and kind of stuff. So I want to quickly showcase what it's like. So I'm going to just try to enter an address if I can. Oh, oh, oh. Right, just an address in France to show you. So imagine I'm a host in France. I'm looking for somebody in Paris to help me out. And here what I see co-hosts, their rank. What's interesting to me is that if you look at these co-hosts, you have diverse people, but some of them, they handle 60 listing, 129 listings, 5, 33, 3, 61. So it's not just small hosts we see here, right? We see people quite a few, especially at the top number of listings. So hence the question that I would be maybe asking here, if I go here, what's interesting to me is 4 things. One, Airbnb on their page and Brian Chesky recently on different calls in interviews has said that co-hosts have a better guest review score than you guys. What he says that, and it's written on their website, that co-hosts have an average of 4.86 review score against large property managers. That I look at the data, they mean people with more than 30, managing more than 30 properties. Have a review score that's lower at 4.62. So that's, again, could be self-selection, right? Obviously, if I'm making a program with co-hosts that only have a certain score, of course, they, by definition, are higher than the rest, the average, because I'm selecting them, right? Second topic I would like, again, the panelists to react on is like, and Chesky added, we're going to do this because we want to unlock millions more listings. Look at that oversupply. At the same time, I heard on the market people telling me, well, I'm a co-host there, and the people I'm getting as requests from are people who are very struggling, and either they have very bad properties, and I'm not sure we want to take them on. So okay, you're going to be connecting with people, but what's the revenue production potential here? So is it a source of leads for you guys? I showed you there's like pretty big companies listed out there with hundreds of listings, or it's going to be create pressure on margins, right? They said that they launched 2 weeks ago, and in 2 weeks, more than 20,000 more people said they would be interested in becoming co-host. Does not mean they probably fitting in the criteria, but they say things. So what do we think? Do we think it's going to be could be a good source of leads to add more properties, or do we think it's going to create even more pressure with people, with 4 or 5 managing 4 or 5 listings, in the business there, and proposing stuff service at a very low base of costs? So what do you think?
Sorry, lots of opinions on this, Thibaut, as you can imagine. So I've actually spoken to quite a few co-hosts in the US before they actually decided to launch it globally. Some of them were small co-hosts, and they were very happy getting their 10 or 12% commission. And what they thought was really interesting and helpful to them is that they didn't have to worry about accounting and payments. It was all split up within the co-host environment. On the other hand, I spoke to ones who got 40, 50, 60, 70 properties, and they were not co-hosts. They were co-hosts, but they had essentially become property managers. And all of a sudden, their lives had changed into a nightmare, and they were looking for PMSs, and they were looking for extra distribution. And Airbnb wasn't providing them with all the bookings they actually needed. So take it back to the 300,000 properties that Airbnb have decided to get rid of because of the low scores, 4 point whatever, below 4.5 or whatever they specify. Presumably, this is a way of actually increasing inventory for Airbnb. But, essentially, you're just becoming micromanagers, and they still got to have good properties. They've got to act professionally. And if they get big, they're just more managers. So it's
I
PR.
I think it comes back to understanding where your margins are, because when you start looking at that marketplace that way, it could be the one of the larger lead sources for acquisition that our space has seen. It could also drive us into a lot of problems, Richard, because I mean, you said it, when you start getting to 16, 20, 25 listings, you're not a co-host anymore. You're a property manager. You're not going to be able to, you're more than likely going to have a lot harder time filling 30 units just on Airbnb than you would filling 15. So now what are you looking for? Distribution. I think that's why, and I've heard Brooke from Ventory say it. We've heard all industry leaders say it. Richard, you've said it. This is a time where we're going to see a lot of unprofessional inventory professionalize itself. If I'm a professional property manager right now, I am getting ready to talk about driving revenue to an asset. I'm talking about driving historic rental revenue and talking about me being a professional property manager and very much distancing myself from that word co-host. And I think that we've got a tremendous opportunity to pick up a lot of inventory into our industry.
And you know who's going to win? Who's going to win from this without doing anything at all? It's Booking.com.
That's a great point. That's a very interesting point.
I mean, they're just walking into new inventory on a daily basis without having to do any marketing, because Airbnb won't be able to sustain it, particularly on probably lower quality, much shorter stays urban inventory.
Absolutely. And we're starting to see Booking.com be not just like I would say last year they were a player, and this year we're starting to see them be a major, major, major player over here in the States as well, where we've got clients who will sign up for it, put the time into it, and it becomes their number one booking source in a few weeks.
Any PriceLabs comments on the competition between Airbnb and Booking.com?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what y'all are, or on Booking.com. It's something that all of our customers in Europe have been begging for some time now. We did introduce our hotel data tab, I believe last year, if not 2 years ago now. I do believe there are plans to incorporate more Booking.com data in our platform this coming year.
Yeah, that'd be super.
Yeah, and also to answer these questions as well, somebody says, is there a difference between co-host and property manager? So no, right? Exactly as Ben said, you call yourself how thing you should be called, right? But on the platform, you can list as a co-host, and some of you did, and some of you said actually they're still in the waiting list because there's too many co-hosts in the region, which is so interesting because like how many, I'm curious because we heard how many people wanted to be co-hosts. We haven't heard how many people wanted to find a co-host yet. So, but let's see. It launched 2 weeks ago, to be fair. It's a pretty good marketing machine. They have to, make it happen, right? You can be a co-host. The only difference, you can't list your co-hosting profile under your company name in the US. In the US, you have to be Gendo, right? Probably because it feels more like folksy. I'm just local host, even though you have like 160 listings that these guys have. Not so in Europe, by the way, because in EU. In the EU, as you may know, the consumer laws really demand that as a consumer whether you interacting with a business or an individual. So in the EU, you can put your name, your company name there. So billboard effect, free advertising, do that. Because by law, again, they need to know who they are interacting with. So yeah, I hope it helps. Any last thoughts on that? Go ahead.
So this is something that I feel like, at least here in South Carolina, in order to be a property manager, you have to be licensed under our real estate commission. So the line between being a property manager and a co-host and whether you need that licensure is very much blurred. And I picture that becoming more of a topic of debate in the future. Because yes, you're not doing the accounting like a property manager would, but you're still dealing with contracts. You're still kind of acting as a representative for the owner. So that's something that we haven't really touched on yet, but I'll be interested to see how that goes.
It's I think it's coming down the pipe, and it's going to come down the pipe pretty soon. And so in your Destins and your Panhandle of Florida markets, that Gulf Shores where advocacy is really, Dennis down in Orlando, Cassiola's been on it, big, I know. And so I'm very curious, just from a spectator standpoint of how this is going to look, and then just to see how it will flow through, how it'll flow down with inventory change, and then will this spur on some regulatory issues when you get into permits in different areas.
It's been a fantastic discussion. Really love it, and I know there's even more. I just want to take a few questions, and then I will ask you, each of you, what's the best way to contact you to keep on the conversation if people want to know more. Just two questions I can see in a Q&A. What data should we look at in order to make the tough decision to let go of a property, given the market given in 2025? Who wants to take it? What to look at to say, sorry, bye?
I look at the P&L.
Yeah.
Is it making you money? If it's making you money, is it making you enough money to suck it up? Is it, or if it's not, one thing I did when I was a property manager, if we were going to let go of a property, it was just a discipline that we had in our business to make sure that we were going to have it. We were going to go ahead and have it work. Go ahead and have that replaced.
Yeah, there's another side to this as well. It might even be a profitable property, but it might be a very troublesome owner. Spends far too much of your time. Let it go.
Second question.
It's very hard, but I'll tell you, it's one of the better feelings that you can have when you've got enough confidence in your business to be able to let some money go, knowing that you're going to get it to come back to your team twofold.
Make your team happy. Can you explain a little more about the hotel block apartments model, what that looks like, pros and cons? I guess super short because it's probably a very wide topic. I guess Richard.
Very, very wide topic. There's two models. One is commission model. The other is a lease arbitrage model. Lease arbitrage can be horribly, horribly painful. I have experience of that. Commission model is more unusual still, but actually a much better way of running it. Obviously, consolidate cleaning into the same space. You've got opportunity for automation and everything that goes with it, but also you're going to probably have to have the right license attached to it.
Bonus question, if you can. What upsells, added services would you recommend to add margins, any of you?
I think early check-in, late checkouts are your kind of go-tos. There's quite a few technologies out there. Those are my two: the early check-ins, the late checkout.
There's a lot of upsells coming through. There's a lot of experiences companies like Mount in the US who will network with you and provide you commissions on sales of experiences. Could be guides, could be nothing, could be anything like that. And there's companies these days who will actually put stuff into your accommodation that if it's purchased and drop shipped after the event, then they'll share the commissions on that as well. So there's a lot of things out there right now that you can make money out of.
Yeah, and I'll give a shameless plug real quick. Reven Research helped found a company called Happy Guest, which is happyguest.ai. Where we really are focused on hosts and professionalizing anything from the rental contract all the way down to those upsells in the back end of the reservation. And I think upsells are really a way to drive margin back in the business's market as your overall market is in a decline.
Yeah, and I want to add two things: damage waiver probably, and some people make good money taking fees on their direct booking website as well, which is interesting. So we're talking about shameless plug. If people want actually to know more about you, your companies, what is the best way to contact each of you? Becca, do you want to get started?
Yeah, of course. If you have more questions about PriceLabs, you can find us at hello.pricelabs.co or reach out to us at support@pricelabs.co. If you want to get in touch with me, I'm on LinkedIn. My name is Becca Madigan, and I would love to connect.
Thank you, Becca. How about you, Ben?
revenresearch.com. You can fill out a form there. My email address is ben@revenresearch. That's just REVAND and research.com, or I'm on LinkedIn, Ben Coleman. Any which way, probably the website is probably going to be the best. That's going to get you in contact with the one and only Rebecca Ballard, my COO, to get everything lined up.
And me? Oh, you've gone quiet, Thibaut. Yeah, and myself, just connect to me on LinkedIn. Look me up, Richard Horton or Yes Consulting, and the website is yes.consulting.
Yeah, and you have right now in the chat the contacts for everyone. So once again, thank you for through the speakers for preparing this call, attending, and for the live conversation. It was really good content. Thank you all for attending. We are past the time. There's still more than 80 of you. So I hope it was not it was kind of interesting, but thank you so much for your attention. I know these days it's tricky to have everybody's attention, so I'm very happy. Thank you so much. Uh, this is recorded. You get a recording, and we also, in a few days from now, have takeaways in our website to just summarize things, talk about, mention the resources. Have here the resources sorry mentioned in the call, and you've got tells me the email will be on Monday. You get the email on Monday with all this. All right. Thank you so much again, once again, for attending. I'm Thibaut from Rental Scale-Up and PriceLabs, and I hope to talk with you very soon. Take care.
Much.
Goodbye.